Have you ever run a webinar that got sign-ups but barely any sales? Then this video will fix that, because I've seen the same pattern over and over and over again. Course creators are incredible at teaching. They teach the best class ever, but they just don't convert. And why this is happening is simple. They make the same mistake every single time. They treat the webinar as a class, not as what it is, a decision-making funnel. Over the last 10 years, I built and optimized 114 webinars, and I generated over $100 million in sales for my clients. I used to be the chief marketing officer of Mindvalley, and while I was there, I scaled them with webinars from $25 to $75 million a year. And I use this same framework with the other incredible creators like Tony Robbins and Marisa. If you are new here, hi, I'm Alessio Pieroni and I'm the founder of Scale for Impact. And for the last 10 years, my life had one single mission: helping course creators scale. But here is the deal. If you are still building and you don't know exactly what's working, what's not, don't worry, I'm not gonna sell you anything. You won't see any course, I won't ask you to pay for anything. My mission here is to give you exactly what works. Not from someone that heard it from someone else, but from someone that worked with the best creators in the world. Help them scale and now give you the access, the playbook, completely for free. So in the next hour, I will unveil the exact systems that you need to use. What topic to run, how to validate it, how to frame the promise, how does the math works, how to get the right people to show up, how to deliver a 4-part structure that leads naturally into the pitch, and how to handle objection before selling even begins. And I will show you the number one reason why most webinars fail in 2026, even when the content is really good. And all I'm asking in exchange for all of these are two things. Number one, please forgive my Italian accent. And number two, if this video and the teaching that I'm sharing in this channel help you cross 250K a year, please ring us at Scale for Impact and we will help you to take your online education business to the next level. All right, let's start with the big picture. In this section, you're gonna discover what a webinar is, why they are so powerful, and how the entire system works. Because that's how we normally think. We wanna look at the entire map, understand how everything works, and from there, go in deep and reverse engineering how we can create our perfect webinar. To define what's a webinar, we need to understand exactly what a webinar is not. A webinar is not a motivational talk. It's not you teaching something. It's not putting some slides and some of your lesson together. It's not you teaching everything. Absolutely not. Here is the simple way to think about it. Imagine you're back at school. And if you think back when you were in school, I'm sure that if you think at your favorite subject, you for sure had a fantastic teacher that was teaching that to you. And that's pretty normal. In the online education space, when we buy a course from someone, it's usually because we resonate and we love that teacher. So when I was in university, I had this special thing that I would do. When the new semester will start, I would go in the class and I will go to the first lesson. Why would I go through the first lesson? To understand one important thing. Do I like this teacher or not? And then I was listening to that lesson. I was trying to understand how good of a teacher they were, if I would enjoy spending the next 6 months coming every single day to their class. And after that, I would decide, do I want to continue with this subject or not? Now, a webinar is pretty much the same thing. It's a trial class where the teacher doesn't need to teach everything. They need to teach one single thing that shifts the student to go to the next level. That's exactly what a webinar wants to do. It wants to bring you to the next step. It's like that trial class that brings you to the next step, that in our case is selling the course or the program that we're trying to sell them. But here is the most important part. The goal of the first lesson isn't to teach everything. It's to teach one single thing and solve one specific problem that shift beliefs of your students and allow them to go to the next level. Because once you help them sincerely from your heart, you can really move them and take them to the next level. Now, what a lot of people do is that they don't focus on one single problem. they actually focus on too many problems. And maybe you're also a great teacher, so you actually can solve 5 problems instead of 1. But there is a problem. You are overloading, overwhelming with information your students. And that's why your students don't buy. Because an overwhelmed mind doesn't buy. A clear mind buy. And that's why we build our webinar, to make sure that we solve one single thing and then we take them to the next level. People think that webinars are some internet revolution, but they're not. They are a simple evolution of something that existed for the past 100 years. Think about it. Back in the days, there used to be seminars. So teacher will bring students in a room, in a seminar, and will teach them something. And then after they will teach them something, they will transition into giving them an offer to take them to the next level. Then, when teacher wanted to do the same thing and wanted to basically take the power of seminar but bringing it to a lot more people, they simply say, hey, why don't we just write a letter about it and we deliver in their email? And that's where the sales letter were coming from. So people will write a letter that will grab their attention, will go deeper in the problem that they were having, providing a solution, showing an offer for that, showing some proof that this offer will work, and giving that call to action so that people will buy. And then the internet came, and the internet revolutionized a bit of everything. Because now you could take that same sales letter that was pretty old and then put them online, and for sure you could put it as a web page. But you can also do something extra. You can transform it into a video sales letter. So you could use the same script of the sales letter, but put it on a video. And this had a level of persuasion that is a lot stronger, because you can add tonality, your voice, your experience, and it's something that changed the internet world in the beginning and how people were selling online. But now the biggest revolution came. And what was this revolution? Webinars. Yeah, you guessed it right. Webinars are simply video sales letter combined with a live interaction. Because once you can interact with an entire way of teaching and pitching, that changes completely everything. So think like that. It worked with seminars, it worked with sales letter, it worked with video sales letter, and it worked with webinar. Because here is the thing. Technology changes, everything changes, but human psychology doesn't. That's why webinar works. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Alessio, webinar don't work anymore. I've tried many times and it just doesn't work for me. Well, I get it. It's for sure different, right? 10 years ago, webinars used to work differently. And that was because the market was less crowded. So for sure, right now, the market is a bit more crowded. And what's the difference is that bad webinar don't work, but good webinar still do. Look at some example. Alex Hormozi in 2025 did the biggest launch in the internet history, generating $106 million in one day. And what did he use? Webinars. Iman Ghazi, Jason Fladline, these guys are crushing it with webinars right now. They generate between $20 and $30 million with the webinar that they do. So webinar, they definitely work. What doesn't work? Poorly scripted, poorly teaching, no pitching webinars. These are the things that don't work. But no worries. After you watch this entire video, you will not have any of these problems because your webinar will be incredible. Okay, now let me show you the entire system, the full map of how a webinar works and what are all the components you need to have to create the perfect webinar. Number one, traffic sources. Obviously, you need to get people from somewhere. Email, advertising, your own list, your own social media, affiliates, partners, all of these things. Number two, the registration page. People need to sign up somewhere, but this page is not just a form. This page is an entire page that frames them in the right way to come to the webinar and be excited about that. Number three, the upgrade page. This is where you take your audience to the next level. You upgrade them with usually a low ticket funnel, something that take them to the next level their experience. You can do this with a bundle, you can do this with a workshop, you can do this with a workbook, you can do this with a lot of different things. Next comes the thank you page. This is where you make sure that all your audience have the right things that they need to show up to the webinar, making sure that they maybe add to the calendar or they receive the email and they're excited and ready to go. After that, you need to focus on the show up sequence, because once you got so many people signing up for your webinar, if they don't show up, this doesn't mean anything. So which email you send, which SMS you send, it's very important. But the most important thing is the webinar itself. It's obvious that if the webinar isn't good, you can have the best pages, the best design, the best copy, but that won't really help you to take the webinar where it deserves to be. So the webinar has to be incredible. And after that, you need a sales page and a sales sequence that obviously allow you to sell the product in the best way possible. This is a follow-up from what you already did in the webinar and allow you to add some extra sales after that. That is a follow-up that continue to sell what you did in the webinar, but it takes it to the next level, adding some scarcity. But before we go any further, we need to have an important conversation here. Because you can have the best webinar, the best page, everything could be great. But if your product and offer is not great, then we have a problem. Like for me, as a marketer, it's extremely important that what I'm selling is changing people's life. That's why I work in online education. I truly believe that education can take people to their next level in their life. And that's what you need to ask to yourself. Is what you're selling a no-brainer? Is what you're selling something that people really want to change their lives? Are you thinking of your potential customer being there and being in pain because they are not able to solve the problem, and your product being that thing that can shift them, that can take them to the next level? Once you do that, that term sales, that is so scaring and so difficult to say, is actually something that can save them. And you are so excited about this product that you are sure that it will take it to the next level. Doing this changes everything, because having that kind of excitement towards your offer, towards your product, really takes everything to the next level. Until when your product is not that good, don't do the webinar yet. Fix your offer, fix your product, take it to a level in which you are so proud of it that everyone should get it, and everything else will come after that. So here is what you should walk away from these sections. Webinars are not a class. They are a decision-making funnel. The goal isn't to teach everything. It's to create clarity, shift beliefs, and make the next steps obvious. There are a lot of different components that support how a webinar is good, but the webinar itself and the product is what really matters. Now that you understood this, let's go to the next step: how to design a webinar. Up to now, you have seen the full map. You have seen all the components and how they work. But the reality is that if you don't connect the components in the right way, if you don't design the entire experience in the right way to make the next steps inevitable, your webinar will fail. So it's extremely important that you understand not just how everything works, but how everything comes together. And that's what we're going to cover. If I'm doing this video about webinar, isn't because I'm the smartest and I know more than everyone else. If I'm doing this video about webinar, it's simply because I've made all the possible mistakes that you can make in a webinar. I've learned from all of them, and I want to make sure that you avoid making this mistake. And you know, the number one question people ask me when we start working on a webinar together is, what should this webinar be about? And here is the mistake I made once. One of my clients came to me and asked me, Alessio, I want to make a webinar about this topic. And that topic was very nice. The topic was trendy. A lot of people will sign up. A lot of people enjoy the actual content of the webinar. But there was a big problem. This topic had nothing to do with the product they were selling. And that's what happens sometimes. You fall in love with the topic of a webinar, but it has nothing to do with the end objective, which is taking people to your program. And that's extremely important to understand. A webinar is not a class. Choosing a topic is an art. It's something that you definitely cannot make a mistake on. And I created a system that allow you to pre-validate your ideas and making sure that you make the best possible webinar ever. You want to discover that? Let's go into it. The number one step is always to start with the product. If not, you do the same mistake I did with the client. And once you start with the product, you need to ask yourself, okay, what's the belief that people have about this product that doesn't allow them to buy? I need to remember that the webinar is all about shifting that belief. Once you do that, you can start understanding that there will be a few different options that you can teach during the class that will allow you to shift that belief. Now, this is very good because it's already giving you a good webinar angle, or potentially 4, 5, or 6 webinar angles that you might want to test. And from this 5 or 6 webinar angle, you want to go and create 5, maybe 6 webinar title for each of the different angles. Why this is important? Because this allow you to understand what are all the different options that are out there and put together different type of webinars that you could create. There are 3 types of webinar that you can do. The first webinar is what I call the mistake webinar. It's always about the 4 mistakes that are preventing you to do X. That are very good because it talks about the mistakes, so everything that prevents you and everything that stops you, but it doesn't really allow you to teach anything else that you can keep for the course. So it's very good to have this type of webinar whenever there is a pain that is so big and whenever people try so many things to solve the problem and they weren't able to find a solution. The other one is the secret webinar, the 3 secrets to achieve X. This is super important whenever you want to start teaching something. And especially in your methodology, you might have maybe 25 secrets. So what you can do is that the 3 secrets are a simple preview of those 25. And if you want to discover all of them, we have a program for that. Or sometimes you have a topic that is so complex that people have no idea how to figure it out. They have no idea where to start. Everything seems so complex. Let me give you an example. A lot of people lately have been doing a webinar on how to buy a business. That's a very complex methodology. You need to understand a lot of different pieces, a lot of different mechanisms. So if you present in your webinar the buy a business methodology and make it a 5-step simple framework that allow them to buy, that's actually a very good way to basically show a roadmap and take people to the next level. So you always need to think, am I doing a mistake webinar? Am I doing a secret webinar? Or am I doing a methodology webinar? Once you have this clear, you can go to the next step. That is the first part of our pre-validation framework. And you always need to start from your product. Once you analyze the product, you need to analyze, very importantly, what's the number one belief that's prevented our customers to buy our product. And once you understand that belief, that can make you think about what you could teach. Maybe it could be some mistake they did in the past. Maybe it could be some belief about, I don't know if you're a good teacher, so you need to teach me something. And in that case, the secret will go better. Or they have no idea where to start and you need to teach them the methodology. It's extremely important that you always start from there so that your product is very connected to your webinar. Once you've done that, you might come up with probably 4 or 5 different angles. That's more than fine. That's all you need to get started in the pre-validation. Once you have the 4 or 5 different angles, you want to make sure that for each one of them, you can have different titles. Potentially, you can also try a mistake title versus a secret title versus a methodology title. You can go crazy on that. But at the end of this, you will have 5 angles and 4 or 5 different titles for each of your webinar options. That means that you might have between 15 and 20 webinars option in total. Now it's time to pre-validate it. How do we do it? We use advertising. And we use a very simple thing. We take a normal banner, maybe with your picture, your face, and then at the bottom of that, we put the webinar title. And you replicate that 20 times. The only thing that change In this image is the webinar title, no other changes. You take all these 20 banners with this 20 webinar title and you create a Facebook campaign. The campaign is going to be a campaign-based optimization campaign, what we will call CBO. And you will do it, structure it in this way. You start with the campaign, then you have one unique ad set, and then you put the 20 different options that are the 20 banners that you created with all the different titles. You optimize the entire campaign for traffic, and then you get started. You want to make sure that you include a rule that every single ad get a maximum of 400 impressions. Why is that important? Because automatically Facebook will give more traffic to the best performing option. We don't want that in this case. All we want to do is making sure that every option get the same amount of impressions. And based on that, we're going to go and calculate our click-through rate. That's probably the thing that will matter the most in this case. Because what will happen is after you validate this, and you can do that for cheap, probably for just like $50 to $100, you will be able to see where people click the most. Now, this seems simple or simplistic for some people, but for me, this is very important because what you will see is that whenever people click on one webinar title versus another, you can see that there is an intent there, that people are more attracted to one thing versus the other. And this allows you to pre-validate what your webinar actually will be. Once you understand the title and once you understand that, you can then come together and decide that's the webinar title I will do, that's the topic I will choose, that's what will work. We did that with several clients. And we have seen over and over again how this has been dropping the cost per lead on advertising on all our clients. It's been so important to pre-validate because you save so much money, especially if you're spending a big amount of budget on advertising. So always focus on this, always use this strategy. The pre-validation framework will absolutely change the way in which you think about how to do a webinar. Now that you pre-validated what your webinar is going to be like, you need to actually make sure that people get to the webinar. How do you do that? By using all the traffic sources that you have. Now, let's get into it and understand exactly what we want to do. Let's start with the most common situation. You have a small list and you need to get some people to the webinar. Well, obviously start with your own list. Or if you don't have a list, start with your social media. It's very important to start to get your own people first. Why? Number one, it's free. And this is extremely important in the economics of a webinar. You want to make sure that the people that arrive to your webinar are your own people and that they know exactly your message and they are more ready to purchase from others. It's normal that if someone have been knowing you for years, they are a lot more likely to purchase something from you versus someone that never heard anything from you. So always start with your own audience. It definitely helps. What would I do if I don't have an audience? I will definitely do affiliate webinars. Affiliate webinars are pretty simple. You find a partner, and this partner has the perfect audience for you that you know they will convert to your product. So you suggest them a very simple thing. Let's do an affiliate webinar together. I come to your community, I teach them something, and then I propose them to purchase my product, exactly as we do in the webinar. But then there is a little trick. Percentage of the sales will come to you, and another percentage of the sales will actually go to the affiliate himself. That will help them to generate some revenue from their own community without doing anything. And for you, it will help you to generate some revenue without the risk of creating your own community. That's a win-win for both. And once you're able to create this different partnership and do very well, you can scale your business in a great way. Think about it. It's a bit like doing a podcast. You have someone else that introduces you to their community, and then you can go super deep for 1 or 2 hours with them. That really can allow you also to build your own community while generating revenues. Some people have been doing this and generating 6, even 7-figure webinars thanks to this type of opportunities. And it's all a matter of starting doing different partnership, maybe with your friends in the beginning. And then the better you are, the more you can show different numbers to different partners in the industry, and more people will want to do an affiliate webinar with you. I've seen people doing their first six-figure launch in this way because they plugged in someone else's audience. And now another way that you can use to take your webinar to the next level are social media. Let's get into that. A lot of people nowadays have a bigger social media than a bigger email list, and that's fantastic. But how do you convert it into webinar subscribers? Well, especially if you come from Instagram, there is a huge opportunity for you. Some of my clients have even millions of followers, and they really don't know how to transform them into people that can come to your webinar. Well, it's pretty simple. You need to use ManyChat and use the classic IGDM funnels. That basically means that you do a reel and you tell them to comment a specific keyword. Once they comment a specific keyword, you bring them through a flow where you sign them up for the webinar. That is a simple automation that can allow you to generate hundreds, even thousands of leads and take your webinar to the next level. I've seen this working over and over and over again, and it's really what makes the difference from bringing people from your social media to your email list to your webinar. That is really a game changer, and it's something that really can help you to take things to the next level. If this wasn't enough and you wanted something else, well, the last traffic source is probably the best or the worst, depend, is advertising. Advertising is the traffic source that can be your holy grail or can be the thing that destroys everything. Let's go a bit deeper into that. What do I mean? Especially when you're starting, advertising sounds like a dream. I spend $1, I make back 5. Oh my God, I can become very rich by doing that. The problem is that you can also spend $1 and make back 0 and lose a lot of money while doing that. And if your webinar has never been done, is not proven, you're maybe not good in front of camera, you have never been selling online, it's a huge risk to take your webinar and put it on advertising. What I always say is do your webinar first a few times, generate some revenue, know that it's proven and that actually works, and then you can take it and scaling it up with advertising. Advertising is like fuel that you put on fire, but you have no fire, the fuel doesn't do anything, right? So advertising can change absolutely the way in which you do webinar and can scale it up in incredible ways. In Mindvalley, I used to spend up to $3 million a month on webinars. But even in that ecosystem, some webinars will fail and some webinar will be incredible. So it's extremely important to keep on testing, improving continuously to get traffic into your webinar and generate revenues from that. Now, a little trick whenever you do advertising for your webinar. You always need to make sure that you start optimizing your traffic for leads, and after you start getting some purchases, you optimize per purchase. This will give you maybe a more costly lead, but it will give you definitely better quality. We have seen this over and over again. If all that you care about is having a great return on your spend, well, you need to go for purchases and not for leads. Now, let's talk about your registration page. This is not just where people sign up. This is not just a form. This is about pre-framing the entire experience. It's extremely important that you take care about two things. Number one, think about where do people come from. They come from email, they come from advertising. Well, it's important that whatever message they received before is extremely congruent to the message that's on the page. And that's extremely important to make sure that people will sign up and you will have a very good landing page conversion rate. Now, next step, you need to figure out what are the sections that you need to have on a webinar. Different people will tell you different things, but from what I tested, this is what works better. The number one part that you need to focus on is the above the fold. The above the fold is basically the first scroll, what people see when they open your page. 50% of people don't even scroll down from there. They usually see just the above the fold. It's extremely important that you put all the elements that you need in a landing page in the above the fold so that people can take a decision. How you do that? Very simple. You focus on three major things. The pre-headline is where you either call out your audience or you present yourself. So you could start with something that say, for course creators that want to take their courses to the next level, Or you could say a 90 minutes webinar from the ex chief marketing officer of Mindvalley, Alessio Pieroni. And then you go with the headline. The rule that I have is that the headline should attract. You should always look at the headline and think like, huh, what's that about? And from there, you want to go to the next step, which is basically the sub-headline. And the sub-headline has the goal of explaining. So if the headline attracts, the sub-headline explains. The headline should be something captivating, something strange, something interesting, and the sub-headline should explain what the headline actually means. Once you do that and you combine those two together, you have the attention and people understand exactly what this is about. And after that, you obviously need to have a very clear call to action. We've tested this over and over and over again, and something like reserve my spot now is the best thing that you can put on a webinar landing page. After that, you want to have a video trailer. This is something that to me is super important. Back in Mindvalley, we actually banned the word webinar and we transformed it into the word masterclass because we wanted our webinar to have an experience that was so beautiful that everyone would absolutely love it. And when we were thinking about that, we weren't really thinking about other webinars in the industry. We were thinking about Netflix. We are competing with time. We are competing with people that are spending time on their sofa or are thinking, should I watch a Mindvalley masterclass? And once we were doing that, we were thinking, well, how does Netflix actually promote their next TV series or the next film that they're actually doing? Well, they do a trailer. And that's what we said ourselves. Why don't we do a fantastic trailer for our masterclass so that people can watch it as they watch a Netflix trailer? And that trailer was so successful and so instrumental in the way in which we scaled Mindvalley back then. And that's what I want you to put in this part of the page. A trailer that gives that feeling, that excitement, that 60 to 90-second moment that make you feel, I really want to watch this. I really want to take this and go into the next level. I really need to sign up for this because there are all these cliffhanger and things that make me feel I want to watch this webinar. This is why you need to have a trailer in your landing page. Then you need to go to the problem section. The problem section is where you need to make sure that you're talking to the actual pain that the customers are having. You want to call them out and say, hey, maybe you're feeling in this way, or raise your hand if you ever felt in this way. This is important because the more the customer feel that you understand them, the more they understand that this is right for them. And right after this, you need to focus on, great, how do we solve this pain and problem that you're having? And this is where the what you will learn section will be, because that actually answers those exact pains so that they can create a bridge in their mind and go to the next level. That's the game that you want to play. And if it's clear what they will learn in 3 to 5 bullet points, that's all you need. After this, you want to have a great author section. You want to present yourself as the great author that is teaching this webinar. Why is this important? Because obviously, as we said before, people love you as a teacher and they need to understand who you are. And if they resonate with you personally, they have more chance to come to your webinar. And that's why after this, you normally want to have also some testimonials that prove that you are the real deal. Here, some testimonials that are focused on authority are probably the best one to use because people will see that other people in the space are recognizing you as a good teacher. And then last but not the least, you want to have the sign up form. This is where people will actually sign up. And it's very important that throughout the page, you have all the different call to action to make sure that they always arrive here, the sign up form. In the sign up form, you want to collect a few data. The name and the email are the one that you obviously need to collect. And the third one should be the phone number. The phone number usually we suggest to collect it as an optional field. Why is that? Because in our test, whenever you collect the phone number and you make it mandatory, you have quite a big drop in the landing page conversion rate. But once you make it optional, you have no drop, and still you have about 60 to 70% of people that leave their phone number. This is extremely important if you want to make sure to have a good performance on this page. After people sign up for your webinar, what you want to do is take them to the next level. Now, this might sound a bit contradictory or might be something that a lot of people don't advise you to do, but I tested this over and over again. And I absolutely suggest you to take this next step. Have an upgrade page between your webinar and your thank you page. Why do I say that? Well, it's pretty simple. Number one, you want to make sure that you take your people to the next level, because whenever someone pays something, is a lot more committed to show up. And I've seen this over and over again. Doing a very low ticket product at this stage can change your funnel. Let me give you some example. You might want to sell a small bundle, or you might want to sell a workbook, sometimes even a book. In some cases, even a special Q&A that will happen after the webinar. Now, whatever you sell don't really matter. What really matters is, can you make sure that someone take out their credit card and can take their experience to the next level? Because they will be a lot more committed to go there. And you won't have everyone signing up for this. You will have probably 3 to 5% of people that take out their credit card, spend something with you, and they go to the next level. But this specific purchase tell you something that is pretty interesting. Number one, people that purchase the $27 program are a lot more likely to purchase the $1,000 program that you're gonna sell later. And this is because whenever a person take out their credit card and purchase something from you, they are 20 times more valuable than a person that signs up for free. That's how important it is for someone to purchase. But the real reason why I use an upgrade page in all my webinar is another one. You know, in 2017, in 2018, when I was scaling up Mindvalley for webinars, the thing that I was doing was pretty simple. We were optimizing our advertising for purchases. Basically meant that we were asking Facebook or Meta or Google or YouTube or anyone to make sure that they will give us as many purchases as possible. And that makes sense because Facebook could track the entire funnel very easily and could understand very well who was buying and who was not, even 7 days after the webinar sign up actually happened. But in 2021, the advertising world completely changed. Why did it change? Because iOS 14 happened. And what that means? It means that the privacy is a lot stronger, especially on iOS device, which means that it's a lot more difficult for Facebook to understand what people do after they sign up for a webinar. How do we train Facebook and Google to give us the purchasers, not people that sign up just for free to come to our webinars? Well, it's simple. You optimize for people that purchase the upgrade. Now, that's a little trick, but it really allows you to get a lot more valuable people to your webinar versus some freebie seekers. That's what you want, and that's what can take your webinar to the next level, having the right people there. And after they upgrade, you obviously want to make sure that you send them to the thank you page. Now, here is a little trick. Don't say thank you on your thank you page. Why shouldn't you say thank you? Well, it's simple. If you say thank you, it looks like that they did a favor to you. So sometimes what we say is that we say, congratulations, you made the right choice for yourself to sign up for this webinar. To make sure that you show up, add it to your calendar because this will take everything to the next level. And bonus trick, give a little reason for them to show up to the webinar. Tell them now, directly in this page, that there is a special bonus that is waiting for them if they show up for the webinar and they stay till the end. This will really improve your show up rate. All right, so people have registered, that's great. Now, the real thing is, how do we get them to show up? And I know that this seems such a stupid and simple thing to do, but trust me, this is probably the thing that in the past 5 years have become the most difficult. Across the board, across clients, across industries, we see show up rates going down. And this is because there are a lot of webinars, a lot of distraction, and it's difficult for people to remember to show up. In some cases, we even have webinars that have a 10 to 15% show up. And this clearly doesn't work. The entire math of a webinar doesn't work with that little show up rate. You want to make sure that your show up rate goes up to 20 to 30%. That's what we're going to do right now. How do we do that? It's pretty simple. Number one, you want to make sure that you have a fantastic show up sequence. You need to send straight away a confirmation email with all the details, the link where they will actually go to watch a webinar, and all the different bonus they have access to, and all the reason for them to come. That's extremely important because the confirmation email is the email that will have the highest open rate and the one that everyone will check. So always focus on making sure that this is the best email ever with all the information that you need. After that, you need to make sure that people are added to the calendar. There are a couple of ways to do that. The number one way is that both on the thank you page and in every email, you ask them to add to their calendar. And using a lot of plugins or Google Calendar, as simple as that, it can allow to get more people to show up. But there are other cases in which you want to take a more strong approach and create an automation that allow everyone to have your webinar into their calendar completely automatic. That's something that you can do, especially if your webinar is hosted on Zoom and Zoom automatically send a Google Calendar to everyone. And that's something that works super well. Now, the other thing that you want to do is to make sure that people don't forget that they sign up for your webinar, but that they will actually get different reminders throughout the days so that then they will show up. And how do you do that? Well, for sure, you need to give different emails, different content, different SMS even. But what's really important is that the content of these emails needs to be exciting and needs to create expectation towards something. One of the best way to do that is to actually create a bonus that will be delivered just if people show up to the webinar and stay till the end. This is very important because it drives attendance and it drives the stay rate. The more people stay till the end, the more people can actually buy your product. And that's where you will give the bonus. Make sure that this bonus is special. It's something that they really want to have and they need to stay till the end in order to get it. If you follow the steps right, you will have 60 to 70% of your email sign up that will also have given you the phone number. And this is where you can also have an SMS sequence or you can also have a WhatsApp sequence. In some countries, WhatsApp works even better than the SMS. And that's extremely important to make sure that people have an extra reminder that allow them to see that your webinar is happening. Now, the number one question around show up sequence is what's the frequency that we should use? What I usually use is that I always send one email a day from the day you sign up till the day in which the webinar happens. And in the day in which the webinar happens, I send more emails. Usually, I send a 24-hour reminder, a 6-hour reminder, a 1-hour reminder, and a 5 minutes reminder. That really helps to drive attendance up. And at the same time, I also send a 24-hour SMS or WhatsApp reminder, 6-hour SMS, and then 15 minutes SMS. Combining all these things together really makes sure that people will show up a lot more, be there for the webinar, and be ready to take their life to the next level thanks to your product. Now, I know the question you're asking yourself. Alessio, why do you spam me so much? I don't want to receive so many of your SMS or so many of your emails. Well, I'm a bit sorry for that. But at the same time, numbers speak for themselves. Reducing the number of reminders, it really reduces your show up rate. So the way in which I see it is that for sure, it's a bit annoying. And I do understand when people do it to me, I'm a bit annoyed as well. But at the same time, it really drives people to take themselves to the next level. Think about it as a gentle nudge that you keep on giving to people and that will move them actually to the next level. If you arrived till here, you're already starting understanding a very important pattern. Webinars don't work because you drive traffic. Webinar works because you drive intent. When people come from the right sources, with the right mindset, the right motivation, and the right expectation, they show up and stay. And then sales are not anymore random. You can clearly see that there is a system. And if you follow the system, this will allow you to go to the next level. Because again, webinars are not a class. They're a decision-making moment that allow them to purchase your product and change their life. Once the right people are in the room, they're focused, they pay attention, they have the right expectation and motivation. Now, the outcome of the webinar depends on just one thing, the webinar itself. Now is the time to go to the juice. Because yes, we figured out how to get people to the webinar, how to make them excited, how to make them show up. But now let's talk about the serious thing. How do we structure an actual webinar? And this is where most of the webinar fail. Because people that do a webinar usually are teacher. And when you are a teacher, what you love is teaching, obviously. But the webinar is not a class. We already understood that. So what is a webinar? Again, it's a decision-making funnel. But what does it even mean? How do we transform a class or a free trial class into a decision-making funnel? Well, we're lucky. There is a framework for that. And that's what we're going to figure out. The 4-step framework to create incredible webinars. Every high-converting webinar follow this 4-step framework. Let's start. The first one is the intro. Then comes the content, then comes the transition, and then comes the pitch. Let's go through each part and understand what we need to do in each one of them. Let's start with the intro. The intro isn't just about saying, hey, I'm Alessio, welcome to my webinar. The intro is really about setting the frame for the entire webinar. That's what you want to do. And there are 6 different parts that you need to go through. The first one is that you need to welcome the audience and do the big promise. This is extremely important. You obviously welcome people in the first 30 seconds, say hello to people, ask them where they're from, and ask them to answer in the chat where they're from so that they start engaging. But then you need to state very clearly what's the big promise of the webinar. Imagine you're doing a weight loss webinar and you say, today you're going to figure out why every diet you tried never worked. So something big, something exciting that they want to really understand a bit more after that. And the second part is where you need to introduce yourself. Now, the biggest mistake that people do in this part is that they usually say, I'm the coolest fitness instructor in the world. I trained 100 million people on how to lose weight, and you should follow me. That's not exactly how it works. What you need to do is that you need to establish a connection. Now, how do you establish a connection? You use your hero's journey. And actually, the framework that I like the most is what's called the V model. The V model, it's basically a V. You start on top, you go to the bottom, and then you go back on top. The way in which it works is that you say, hey guys, you see that I have 100 million followers and everyone say that I'm the top weight loss expert in the world. But what you don't know about me is that 10 years ago, I was in a very different situation. I was struggling with my weight. I had this problem. I was doing this. I was doing that. And you bring them to what they call the abyss, the actual struggle that you went through yourself. You tell your own journey that is very emotional and is very strong, and you build a connection because you're vulnerable towards them. Then you arrive back at the top and you say, and that's how I was able to train so many people and change so many people's life. And this one create a very strong connection that bring everyone to the next level. Now, when you're on top here, the next thing you want to do is to add some testimonials. The testimonial that you want to add here are actually authority testimonials. So what you will say is that you will say that, for example, if you have some celebrity client, you will say, and I'm not the only one that say that I change people's life. Here is what some of the people say about me. This athlete say that I help him change the life into achieve incredible results. This other person say this. This other person say that. You go super quick through this testimonial, but you want to overwhelm the audience a bit with the success that you've had so that they can say, wow, this is the real deal. I need to trust this person. And after that, you want to go through something that's very interesting, handling objection. You're like, Alessio, what do you mean handling objection? I'm just introducing the webinar. Well, a webinar, it's all about handling objection. And you want to start to handle objection before you start selling. Because when you start selling, that's too late. So how do you do it? You simply put some questions that the audience will have, that are some of the biggest objections they might have, and you start answering them. That's a very great way to warm up the audience, give them some quick content and some questions that they have around that, and start taking the things to the next level. After you handle the objection, what you want to do is that you want to go into future pacing. You want to give them an example and say, well, if I would give you right now the roadmap that I will share today, and then 5 years from now, you know that all the diet you tried in the past actually didn't work because of this reason, and you were actually able to go on a diet, change the way in which you eat, change the way in which your body looks, how would your life will feel like? And you make them feel exactly like that. A great exercise is what's called the time machine. You bring them 5 years in the future and you ask them to imagine how the life will change. Bringing them in this state of mind change completely how they see themselves and also how they want to go to the next level, which is exactly where they will be at the end of the webinar if they purchase a product. So that's the game. The more you future pace, the more excited they will be to then purchase your product. And then last but not the least, you go back and say, great, so today I'm going to show you why every diet you did in the past didn't work. And I'm going to do that by showing you this, and this. 3-4 different bullet points that basically give them a quick things that they will learn so that they are excited and they want to stay for more. That's super exciting. Remind them then about the bonus so that they know that they need to stay till the end of the webinar in order to get the special bonus that will unlock at the end. And then you're ready to go with the next part. All right, now we get into the meat, the content. How should you structure the content of your webinar? You're a teacher and what you want to do is teach. Well, that's the problem. If you teach too much, people are too overwhelmed and not ready to buy. So you need to teach in a very specific framework. But especially, you don't just need to teach. You need to shift their belief. And there are some simple strategy for you to shift their belief. Let's start with the first one. You always want to start teaching through a paradigm shift. The biggest teacher that you can think of in your life, they shifted your belief about something that you had. They taught you that something that you truly believe is completely wrong and you need to go to the next level. The number one way to shift beliefs in your webinar is through a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift is a contrarian way to think about a specific problem. Think about the best teacher you know. They probably taught you something that in the beginning you believe was the exact opposite. And when someone is able to shift your mindset so much, you will remember the teacher and you want to go a lot deeper. This is about the contrarian takes. I always say to my clients, what's something that you believe that no one else believes about your topic? And once you're able to explain this so clearly, so powerfully, everyone will love you. They will want to see your content. They will want to continue learning from you because you shift their belief, you shift what they think, and they're really ready to go to the next level with you. So always start from the paradigm shift. The second step is to teach the map. What does it mean? Well, it's pretty simple. You don't need to teach every single thing that you want to teach them. You need to teach them what's the roadmap that will get them there. Think it like that. Everyone that comes to your webinar is at a stage of their evolution. In the weight loss case, probably they are overweight, right? And then there is a level in their life in which they will be not overweight, and then there might be another level of their future self where they have a six-pack, right? What you want to do is that you want to make sure that they understand what's the roadmap that take them from overweight to six-pack. Because that's the reason why they're here. There is a specific map that they need to follow. And the problem is that they've been trying by themselves to go through this journey, but they haven't found a map that really works. So all you need to do is that you need to show them this map. How do you take them from overweight to six-pack? And what's the best way to do it? To show how you discover this map. You can talk about your journey. You can talk about how you tried different things that didn't work for you. And then you discover an obscure science or a specific training exercise or a specific diet that allow you to go through the next level. And by going through these different steps, you were able to change yourself. Once you were changing yourself, other people asked you, how did you do it? And you simply explain them up. And then you created a program that allow other people to do the same and the same and the same. Sometimes teaching them up is all you need to do. And if you do this very well, very clearly, and very logically, it's a great way to take their belief to the next level, to take their thinking to the next level, to future pace them so that they can see themselves going from overweight to, in a good weight, to six-packs. That's all you need to do. And that's why having this roadmap and teaching this map changes everything. Number 3, belief handling. You want to make sure that you keep handling that belief and upgrading them step by step. And how do you do that? By answering objections. There is something that I normally use whenever I try to answer objections. that I teach them something and then I put up a question in the form of the classic objection that they would have. I answer the objection and then I attach a testimonial to that. That's what I call the objection testimonial loop. Because there is nothing better to answer an objection than to show the story of someone that had the same problem, the same objection, they overcome it, and now they have a better life, the life that they dream about. That's really huge. But I know you might be asking, okay, Alessio, but what are the objections I should address? Well, wait a few minutes for that. I have a specific section when I'm going to handle all the objections that you can answer in a webinar. Another great way to handle belief is to address probably the two most common beliefs that your audience are having: the internal false belief and the external false belief. Think about that. Whenever you want to make a change, you always have some beliefs that are blocking you. And you need to understand where are they coming from and how I can change them. So let's go back to the example of weight loss. My internal false belief is that I'm not worthy of the body that I want to have, and I'm not going to be able to get there. So that's what we will call normally ability of internal false belief. And what you want to do is to address this specific belief with stories and example and handle this objection very well. The second one is the external false belief, which is something that maybe they learn from TV or from the internet or from something else. In the diet case, in the weight loss case, is obviously the fact that there is so many fad diet, so many people that tell you that this is the right thing and you shouldn't listen to everything else. So it's very important to debunk all this myth, to explain all these different parts so that then you can debunk the external false belief. Once you debunked the internal false belief and the external false belief, people are a lot more ready to go to the next level and to take the next step in their journey. Now let's go to the fourth point. You already taught them so much, they know the roadmap, they know how to handle their belief, they understand a lot of different things. All you need to do right now is demonstrate. This is optional, you don't need to use it in every single webinar, but in some cases it's just perfect. And it's a great way to show how good of a teacher you are. Imagine that you're doing a meditation webinar. Obviously, having a meditation here could be something super cool. In the weight loss, maybe you can give an example of how having a diet versus another make a difference, right? If you're doing a fitness training, you can show a little workout. If you're doing a financial education webinar, you can show how to do a specific trade, a specific financial operation that can change their life. These are very simple things that make them understand that getting started, it's very easy, and that you are a great teacher that can teach them how to go to the next level. That's where you can shine. But here is what's important. Especially if you are in some particular niche, especially spirituality, you want to avoid to make something that is too big. Sometimes you overwhelm people with such a big demonstration that you put them in a state that they're not ready to buy. Always keep your demo and your explanation very simple, very straightforward, so that people can make a change, understand how good of a teacher you are, but they are still in the right mood to buy. That's extremely important. All right, now we are at one of the most fundamental part of the webinar, the sales, the transition. Because that's really the biggest mistake that most creators do in a webinar. They teach and they're good and they're in a flow and they're making a change in people's life, and that's why they're born for. That's why you are born for, right? But usually at this time, whenever they need to go into the sales, what do? They become super rigid. And their natural flow of teaching contrasts in a very bad way with how rigid they become in their pitch. And the audience knows that. They know that there is something wrong. And therefore, your sales won't be as good as you expect. To avoid that, what you need to do? It's very simple. You need to do a great transition. And the transition is something very small. It lasts 5 minutes, it's super easy to do, and you need to follow 3 simple steps. The first one is that you need to recap what the audience just learned with you. You recap everything that they learned, and you simply say, hey, in the last 45 minutes together, you learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is important because what you do is that you're triggering reciprocity. You're doing that and say, wow, you learned this just in about 45 minutes together. Imagine what would happen if we would spend 3, 6, 9 weeks together. You frame them towards you grew so much in such a little amount of time. Imagine what will happen if we spend a lot more time together. The next part are the yes momentum questions. These are a series of questions that have as an answer yes. Why do we do that? It's pretty simple. The more our mind is conditioned to say yes, 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 the easier it will be for us to say yes whenever we give the big question, would you want to buy my product or not? That's why framing people to go towards yes is extremely important. And how do you do that? It's simple. You go back to questions that you know that you answered during the webinar and you reframe them here. So as an example, you could say, would you say that you know more about dieting after these 45 minutes together? Would you say that you know what are the biggest mistakes you made? And would you say that right now you have a roadmap on how to take your food journey to the next level? These questions all have yes as an answer. And what you do is that you ask the question, pause for 5-10 seconds, wait people that they say yes in the chat. And when they say yes in the chat, you acknowledge that and you go to the next question. Take your time here, nothing too dramatic. And then there is the last question that you need to ask. This is my favorite question, the permission marketing question. Here, you're asking them the permission to start selling. The way which you do it is very simple. You say something like that. And now, if I told you that there is a way in which these 45 minutes could be just the beginning of a journey together that will take you from overweight to six pack in 6 months, would you like to learn more about that? And because you condition them to say yes, they will say yes also to this question. And in this moment, they just give you the permission to start selling. How beautiful is that? And now, the last part of the transition is what I call the fork in the road. You basically say to your audience that when you started this webinar, you had two choices. Choice number one was to do a webinar, teach something about your journey, and hoping that they will figure out a way to go from overweight to six pack. Or, second choice, make this webinar the beginning of something more, the beginning of a journey where you could be their mentor and take their health journey to the absolute next level. And if they feel that they want to take the second choice, the second journey, and they're excited about that, well, I'm excited about that too, because what I created for you is something incredible. And that's why I'm extremely excited to introduce you to, and that's you go to the sales pitch. All right, now we are in the sales part. This is where a lot of my clients are afraid. The simple thing is that there is a framework. As you have seen, everything is a step by step, and we'll go with a step by step also here. So the sales doesn't feel these weird and strange things that I need to do, and I need to feel like a used car salesman. Sales is a simple process to tell what your product is about, the change you're gonna make in people's life so that they can go to the next level. Let's get into it. In the transition, we have finished by saying, I'm proud to introduce you to program name. And what we want to do now is go to the next level. We want to add a bit more about the product. You want to say what we'll normally call the sub-headline, right? So let's imagine that I will say, and now I want to introduce you to the Ultimate Weight Loss Freedom Academy, the best program in the world to lose weight, gain confidence, and build your six-pack. This is a simple sales headline that share what your program actually will do, share the promise of the program. And this is something very simple that normally you already wrote in the sales page and you can just replicate here. Now that you explain how your program is going to take them from X to Y, now is simply time to explain what's inside your program. And the way you do is pretty simple. You use the formula of the FAB. FAB stands for feature, advantages, and benefits. The feature is simply the name of the component. The advantage is what your component does, and the benefit is what does it change in your life. So let's get an example. Let's imagine that in the Ultimate Weight Loss Freedom Academy program, you're going to have a meal plan. You cannot make the meal plan maybe sounds very cool. So it will be something like the ultimate meal plan for weight loss. And then you're going to say, this is a meal plan that will guide you for 60 days and will allow you to eat healthy, but at the same time to be extremely excited about the food that you're going to eat. So that you can enjoy and taste the most amazing food in the world and at the same time lose weight, feel younger, and feel stronger than ever before. You've seen what I've done there? I explained the feature. I went a bit deeper saying what's the advantage of this feature. And then I used the so that to share the change that this make in your life. And the benefit, so the change that this makes in your life is really what moves the people. So focus a lot more on the benefit than on anything else. After I finished explaining all the different benefits and all the different features that are part of this program, I'm going to start saying, and this normally has a value of specific amount. And this specific amount is going to be something like $2,000. But today, you're not getting just this Ultimate Freedom Academy program. You're getting a lot more. And this is where you explain the bonuses. Now, how do you build bonuses for your program? It's very simple. You need to think about all the different objections that they can have, and then you want to make sure that in these different objections, you answer the objection with a bonus. Okay? So think about on weight loss, an objection could be, oh, but I'm traveling a lot, and whenever I travel, I'm never able to follow my diet. And you say, oh, that's very simple. We created a specific training for you that is how to follow this diet even when you're traveling. And that's a specific bonus that costs $200. That's part of this program. What you want to do with your bonus is to stack a bonus after the other and to show all the 3, 5, 7 bonuses that you have together with the program so that you will have a value next to each of the bonus. And one question my client always asks me right now is, okay, Alessio, but what are these bonuses based on? Well, there are a couple of ways to do it. Number one, you want to do it based on value. What would be a fair value that these bonuses might actually have? Another way, and this is more the legal way, is to make sure that each of the product that you have could actually be sold separately on a storefront for that amount of value. And that is something that to me is very important. The more you are realistic and the more you are true to what you're actually doing, the more this makes sense and feels like an incredible offer for your audience. Now, you already explain your product. You already explain your feature advantage benefits. You already explain your bonuses. And now what will be on the screen for the attendees of the webinar is a lot of numbers stacked all together. And this sounds very scary. But that's very normal because what you're doing is that you're building the stack where you're actually showing all the values that they're actually getting. The beautiful part is that the webinar have a fantastic offer because they won't pay anything close to that. They'll pay something that will cost a lot less. How does that work? Whenever you stack something up and you make this in a way that it actually makes sense, it makes the audience feel that the program is going to cost a lot of money, but that there is also a lot of value inside that. And probably at this time they might be thinking, probably I will not be getting this. But now the interesting thing that you can do is that you can anchor this as the price that they might have to pay. So let's imagine that the total amount of the webinar is going to be something like $5,385. And people are like, oh my goodness, this is way too much. But what you want to do here is to justify this price. And you're going to say something like that. But imagine what will cost you right now to go for 1 year in the gym, to have a nutritionist, to work with a personal trainer, to eat healthy, to get supplements, to do this and to that and to that. And you put together all this amount of costs and you will say you will easily spend something like $7,000, $8,000 to do something like that. So even this price of $5,000 is going to be more than justified. But today, I won't charge you anything close to that. And this is what you do in the price drop. What you do is that you give them a justification why your price is not close to what you could charge. The normal way in which I will do it is I want to change the world. I want to help as many people as possible. And I cannot do that to sell a program for over $5,000 because very few people could afford it. What I want to do is that this is affordable for everyone. They want to change their life and want to change their weight. So today, you won't need to invest $5,000. You won't need to invest even $2,500. Today, and actually, just for the next 30 minutes in this webinar, all the investment you will have to make to get started with the program and make a change in your life will be $997. Now, the price drop is a huge shocking for your audience. Your audience is kind of like, oh my goodness, that's a lot less than I expected to pay. It's still a high price, but it's a lot less. Now, there will be some people that are already excited. This is what we call our emotional buyers. They're excited, ready to go, ready to purchase. And then there are other people that now still have questions, still have a bit of fear to go. And what you want to do is to give something to them so that they can go to the next level. How do you do that? Well, give them a fast action bonus. And you can say, look, just for the first 50 people that will get the Ultimate Freedom Academy, you will also get a special 1-hour session with me where you can ask me any questions and I'll be able to answer these questions specifically for you. A very fast action bonus that you give just for the few people so that they're ready to buy now in this specific moment. And if you want to take it to the next level, you can even say, this price is going to be available just for the next 30 minutes. After these 30 minutes, the price is going to go up and you will never see this price again. So it's your choice if you want to change your life now or you want to wait more time, and this might mean that you will have to pay more. At this point, what you want to do is that you want to bring testimonials and overwhelm the audience with a lot of people that make a change in their life. See them show a lot of people that went through this program before, how they make a change, how their body change, how their life change, who they are right now, and now this makes a difference. If you're doing a live webinar, it's even more incredible to bring a live testimonial and to ask some questions so that they can show and share about their experience. After this, you can actually go deeper into questions, and you can start by doing this with some FAQ, meaning answering some specific question that you pre-made in order to make sure that you answer some of the last objection. After this, you can even open for question for the audience, and that way you can have interaction with them, you can answer all their objection, you can answer anything they have and take them to the next level. In between, you might even congratulate some people that already upgraded for your product so that you keep the excitement up and you keep being excited about how many people's lives you're changing. Now, you went on for a while, probably the sales speech went on already for about 25 to 30 minutes, and now it's time to close. How do you close? Well, you recap the offer. You go back to the slide and you show again the different components, the different bonuses, the different price drop, and you say, today you just pay $997. Now, if you do have any doubt, I want to give something extra for you. I want to give you even a payment plan so that you don't even need to pay $997. You can get started today just with $397 and another 2 payments that will happen in the next 2 months. That's another very great and simple way to reduce the risk even more. You could even add at this point even a guarantee. Look, you don't even have to say yes. All you have to say is maybe. I want to make sure that you take a very informed decision by looking what's inside this program, try it out for a couple of weeks, and then if you don't like it, you get refunded without any question asked. But if you like it, you can start to change your life. And if you want to do that, just get in and you have a 14-day money-back guarantee. No question asked. And at the end of this, you close everything with another fork in the road. And you say, look, we've been together for the past 90 minutes. And right now you have 2 choices. Number 1, this was a great 90 minutes together where you learn a lot about dieting, about changing your life, about taking it to the next level, and you can go on your own. Try and see if some of the tips and the roadmap that I shared today will actually help you. But a lot of the people that do this a lot of time fails. Or there is the other chance, the chance where you actually take the second choice, which is the choice of someone that want to go to the next level, choose me as a mentor, go through a program to actually change their life once and forever. And if that's exactly what you want to do, get the program now. The offer is finishing in the next 5 minutes. I'll be waiting you on the other side of this program. Thank you. Now, how cool was that? I know that this, for a lot of you, might seem a bit scripted, might seem a lot of steps, a lot of things, and it makes sense. In the beginning, it can be a bit overwhelming. But trust me, this is a process that works. This is a process that a lot of people are using because it actually works. And replicating and learning it will actually be very important. My strong suggestion is for you to go deep into this process, learning more, try to make it yours and replicate it, and then slowly adjust it and change also some part of the process to make it a bit more your own. But at the beginning, stick with the process and it will really help you to take your sales to the next level. Now, throughout the webinar, you'll be handling a lot of objections, right? And the question is, okay, but what are all the objections I need to handle? The answer is, it depends, unfortunately. But the good thing is that it depends among 9 different objections that are the most common, that are the ones that you'll normally find in different products. Now, in your specific product, you might have just 3 or 4 that you need to handle. In another one, you might have 5. In another one, you might have 6. But the major thing is understanding what are the most important objections to handle. Now, let's look through all of them and then always think which are the ones that apply to your product. The first one is money. Come on. That's an objection that you find a lot of time. Everyone always have an objection about money. And trust me, I've run a lot of surveys on a lot of different products. Some product costed $47, some product costed $5,000, and the money objection was the number one objection in all the different cases. Now, whenever someone say I have a money objection, it's not really saying I don't have the money or your product costs too much. What they're really saying is I'm not seeing the value in your product. So always remember, when someone say it's too expensive, it's never about the price, it's always about the value. It's always about bringing them back about how much value do they get by being part of this and how getting this program take their life to the next level. The second one is time. Time is a huge objection and people always say, I don't have time. Now, what's important is think about this. Everyone is busy. Everyone has a very difficult life, but making sure that the focus on this is a priority. And that's what you need to do. You need to shift from time to priority because having 30 minutes a day is something that everyone can do. You just need to give the right priority. And you need to make them understand why are you not giving the right priority to this exact topic. That's what you need to focus on if you want to change your health all your life. And then the third one is belief. They may not believe that they can do it. They have had a lot of experiences in the past that actually say, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. I'm not strong enough. I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not smart enough. And you need to make them understand that a lot of people that were feeling like this before starting the program actually were able to change thanks to this belief shifting. And this is really where belief shifting is extremely important, where the internal and external false belief really need to be taken to the next level. Then there is the ability. I'm not able enough to do this. They don't believe in themselves. And this is again where you need to make some work on them and make them understand that they can take this to the next level, that they are able to do this, and people that were even less able than them could do it. A lot of time they might mask this by saying, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm just a student. And you need to show them that other students have been doing that. This is extremely important. The more you can take an extreme testimonial to show that what they have is not really an excuse, you can really kill this objection. Trust is a very important objection. You want to make sure that they trust you as much as possible. This is where guarantees are important. This is where testimonials are important. This is where making sure that you also show up and present yourself in a way that they can trust you is extremely, extremely important. The more you are able to show yourself as trustworthy, the more you're able to have a lot of people around you that say that they can fully trust and they've seen a lot of results thanks to you, the more they want to take things to the next level. Fear. Fear is a very important objection. And people are afraid. That's normal. That's part of life. But what's really important is that the fear that they have a lot of time is a fear of failure. They are afraid of trusting someone again, of going through that, feeling a failure again, and starting back uh, in a starting back in a worse position than when they were before. It's tough. Everyone has been betrayed. Everyone has been trusting someone else that didn't really work, right? Now, what's really important to me is making sure that you normalize this failure. You explain that everyone goes through different journeys, everyone goes through different things that didn't work, and you yourself went through different failures before finding something that worked. But that this really can take them to the next level. And then you have conflict. Conflict is a very interesting one because it's usually a conflict with themselves, with their identity. It's about, oh, if I change, the people around me, what they will say. If I dress differently, if I get a six pack, if I eat a salad instead of eating a burger, what people around me will say. And it's important to make sure that they feel that they need to take themselves to the next level and they need to be proud of this change, not be fearful because of their surroundings. And then you have confusion. Confusion is all about, okay, when does it start? I have so many questions. I need those questions to be answered. And that's where the FAQ really becomes very important. The more you answer every single question in a very clear way, the easier it is to take things to the next level. So make sure to always be reading the chat, answer every question in the webinar, and give all the information they need to make a choice. Last but not the least, timing. Timing is different from time because time is I don't have time. Timing is this is not the right time. And this is what's very important to me because there is always an excuse. Is it too late? Is it too young? Am I too old? Am I too young? It's very important to show them that there are different people that are making change at different moment and that it's never too late or it's never too early. It's always the right time to make the change you really want to make in your life. Well, by now, I hope you understood it. A webinar is not just a class. A webinar is a decision-making funnel, and there are a lot of steps that allow you to make the best webinar ever. And you have seen it. A webinar is not just about teaching. A webinar is about handling objection, providing a roadmap, creating a paradigm shift, transitioning, showing what your product is, answering the question, showing them the benefits, giving bonuses, showing them the price, dropping the price. There is so many different elements that are part of this. And once you use those elements, it really take your webinar from a random class with some slides that you did to an actual I convert funnel, a decision making funnel that take your audience and your sales to a whole different level. At this point, you understand the full system. You know how to bring people to a webinar, you know how to build pages for a webinar, you know how to structure a webinar, you literally have the entire roadmap. What's missing is that you might have still a lot of questions about what are the right tools, what are the numbers I should achieve, what are the different things I can do, should it be live, should it be evergreen? No worries, we're going to answer all of them right now. Okay, first, we're going to talk about numbers. Because if you don't understand numbers, you're flying blind. And here is how we're going to do it. We're going to use what's called backward planning. We always want to start with the end in mind. So let's start by looking at how much revenue do you actually want to generate. Let's imagine you want to generate $50,000 and your program costs $1,000. That's easy. You want to have 50 sales. So if you want to have 50 sales, what conversion rate in your webinar you should have? Now, a good conversion rate in a webinar is between 5 to 10% of the people that attend the webinar. So you need to look at how many live attendees do I want to have if I want to have a 8% conversion rate. That number is 625. If you want to have 625 attendees, you always need to calculate that some people start the webinar and some other people arrive at the sales pitch. And that's what we call the stay rate. Usually when a webinar is good, you have between 75 to 80% stay rate. That usually means that the webinar, the content is pretty good and people arrive quite at the end of your pitch. So in order to have 625 people in your pitch, you need to have 833 people at the beginning of your webinar. So that's what you need to do in order to make sure that you have those 50 sales. Now it's time to go back to our show up rate. How many people are showing up? We said before that bad webinars get 10 to 15% show up. In our webinar, we want to get a 25% show up rate. That's a good benchmark to have. And then if we get 25% show up rate, how many people do we need to sign up? So if you want to have 833 attendees with a 25% show up rate, you need to have 3,332 people signing up for your webinar. So now you have all the numbers. And I know that this can get a bit complex and you might be, okay, what if my benchmark change? What if things want to be adjusted? No worries. I put together a fantastic webinar calculator that will show you the webinar math and will be much simpler to do than doing all the numbers in an Excel file. All you have to do is go at the link below in the comments and then get this. And again, this is all free. I'm not selling you anything. Now that you know your numbers, one of the most common questions that get asked to me every single time is, Alessio, how long should my webinar be? This can be very different. There are people doing a 60 minutes webinar and people doing a 4-hour webinars. Most of all the webinars in our industry are between 60 and 90 minutes. And that's what I usually suggest people to do. So if you do a 60 to 90 minutes webinar and you divide it into the 4 different parts, here is how it will look like. Your intro should be between 10 to 15 minutes. Your content should be between 30 to 50 minutes. Your transition should be about 5 minutes. And your sales pitch should be between 20 and 30 minutes. Now, I know a lot of you might be thinking, well, Alessio, but 90 minutes to watch a webinar? Don't we have the attention of a goldfish? Not really. Well, let's take this example. You're watching this video and probably you are already 40, 50 minutes in. That's a lot, right? And you're watching a movie that are long 3 hours. So yes, we do have a good attention span for what matters. It's not that everything is a reel and need to last for 15 seconds. So when do you need to run the webinar? That's a very good question because we have definitely seen that running a webinar at a specific time or a specific day changes the results. So here is what my experience told me. If you are in the personal growth industry, between Tuesday and Thursday is the best time to run a webinar. Why is that? Well, I don't have exactly a scientific explanation, but what I think is that in the weekend, families are a bit more busy. Monday and Friday are a bit crazy at work. Tuesday, Thursday, and Wednesday are a bit simpler. So that's probably why it works. Then, if you're running a business webinar, a lot of time running it on a Saturday, especially on a Saturday morning, it works quite well. We have seen this in a few different occasions. And sometimes when you work with professionals, like once I did a webinar for a nail tech business, you needed to run the webinar on Monday morning because that's when nail tech salons are closed. So it depends a bit on the different industries and you need to look a bit deeper into that. But overall, these are numbers that I've seen. Now, the other question is, at what time do you run the webinar? The classic time where people run the webinar, if they want to take the US market and the European market, is at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is 12 p.m. New York, and is 6 p.m. in Europe, 5 p.m. in London. I like this because it's beginning of the day in Pacific, lunchtime in New York, and after work in Europe. So these allow you to work very well. If your audience is a lot more US centric, then do it at 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 8 p.m. New York. And in this case, you get the end of the day in US and it works quite well as well. Should I do my first webinar solo or should I co-host it? That's such a great question. And what I will say is this. A lot of people are afraid of selling. And I hope that after this video, you're a lot more excited about doing a webinar, learning all of this and doing a great work. But I do understand that sometimes having a great co-host that can sell for you can really make a difference. So if you're in this situation where someone more experienced than you could sell and you can just be the teacher, it will work to use a co-host. But if you're learning how to do a webinar and you are alone and you don't know where to go, well, do a webinar solo. It will definitely work well. Alessio, should I do my webinar live or should I do it evergreen? This is probably one of the most common questions. But what's really important to me is about understanding that there is not a good live webinar and a bad evergreen webinar. There are just different times in a phase of a business. In Mindvalley, I always used to do evergreen webinars. But with most of all my clients right now, I do a live webinar. Why is that? Well, it's simple. Whenever you do a live webinar, you are actually testing out the webinar. And it's incredibly difficult for a webinar that doesn't perform on live to perform on evergreen. That's why my strongest suggestion is always to do a live webinar over and over and over and over again. One of my clients, Alissa Nobriga, once told me this story. In the beginning of her career, she did the same webinar once a week for an entire year. 52 webinars. This is something that is incredible because after that, she became incredible at running webinar. She became an incredible teacher that could sell very well. And that because she trained so well. Imagine doing the same webinar over and over again, but every time changing and tweaking one little things. You add these things to the content. You improve the way in which you do the intro. You change the transition. You change the sales. It becomes an entire perfect machine that come together. Well, if you do this for 2-3 months, you don't need to do it for a year. You already find the perfect formula for your webinar. And that's the moment in which your webinar can go evergreen, and perform very well on an evergreen matter. Which tech tool should I use for my webinar? Now, if you're a beginner and you want to get started in a quite quick way, what I would suggest is something very simple. Have a landing page where people can sign up. Make sure that people can purchase either your upgrade or your final product through Stripe and deliver your webinar on Zoom. This is quite simple as a setup. You just need to have a website, a Stripe account, and a Zoom. And are simple tech tools that almost everyone can use nowadays. And it makes a difference. Why does it make a difference? Because especially for the webinar, Zoom is a really great tool. Because everyone has Zoom, everyone knows how to use Zoom, and especially Zoom doesn't run on your browser. Zoom runs on a separate app. And in a world where every one of us is distracted by notification and things that are happening, having Zoom on a separate app gives us a lot more concentration. And especially some people run their webinars even with camera on, which means that people are a lot more excited, a lot more present. And these improve your conversion a lot. So if you're at the beginning, definitely use this tech stack. It's going to be super good. If you want to be a bit more advanced, there are other tools. The other tool that you can use could be ClickFunnels, could be Go Level, could be if you want to even evergreen the webinar, you can use Easy Webinar, you can use Ever Webinar, you can use Webinar Fuel. All of these tools are pretty good. I'm not a big fan of one in particular, so I always like to say all of them, and I think that they're pretty similar, but that really work. And if you want to use a tool for a live webinar, that's Webinar Jam. Is definitely the one that's most used in the industry. Now, last but not the least, Alessio, how do we do a post-webinar sequence? How do we do our sales sequence to generate more sales after the webinar? Look, it's very normal that in a webinar funnel, you might see 60 to 70% of the sales to happen during the webinar and the remaining of the sales to happen after the webinar. So it is important that you take care about the sales sequence. How do you do that? You need to have a 7-day email sales sequence. In the first couple of days, all you want to do is that you want to make sure that people go to the replay and can watch the replay of your webinar. If you are advanced and running especially an evergreen webinar, you can also do different sequences for people that attended the webinar, for people that attended the webinar but didn't stay till the pitch, and for people that didn't attend the webinar. So for example, to the people that attended and stayed till the pitch, you can already start selling, and to the other, you can focus to go a lot more in the replay. So it's very important to change, adjust, and improve that. After that, you have 5 emails, and those 5 emails is what you would use to sell the program. The way in which you will do it is that you will do a product presentation email, a what they will learn email, a benefit email, a testimonial FAQ email, and then scarcity email in the last day, because the price is going up, and that's the last thing that you can do before you can purchase this product. It always works, it's a simple sequence, but it really makes the difference. So none of these details that I mentioned will make or break your webinar, but at the same time, they will slightly improve them and take them to the next level. And sometimes in a very competitive environment, to have those slight advantages is what really takes things to the next level. And that's what you should use this part of the video as. Because remember, a webinar is not a class, it's a decision-making funnel. And a lot of the different decisions that you make will make this funnel better. All right, if you're still here, I applaud you. Means that you're so committed to make your webinar to the next level. So I want to wrap up with the key takeaways of today masterclass. So let's go through the different things that you need to remember when you do a webinar. The number one is simple. I said it 100 times in this video, and I'll say for the 101th time. A webinar is not a class, it's a decision-making funnel. Treat it as such, and it will always work. The second one is make sure that you design the webinar in the right way. Make sure that you focus on pre-validating the topic, and then you build all the pages, the upgrade pages, and everything that you need to make sure that people will sign up and show up in the right mindset. Number 3, structure, create, sales. A webinar is a framework, and once you learn the framework, you can do an incredible result. So keep on doing, keep on working on that. It will always take you to the next level. Handle your objection before the pitch. If you're trying to handle the objection after the pitch and during the sales process, it will just not work. The webinar is all about integrating objections inside the script. And last but not the least, webinars still work. In fact, they work better than ever. You have seen this with a lot of examples I brought before. You have seen this that is an incredibly rich topic, and if you do it in the right way, you can really create a world-class webinar that allows to take your business to a whole new level. And if that's what you want to do, please follow all the instructions that I gave you today, and I'm sure it will help you to take your webinar where it deserves to be. If on the other hand, you are a creator that is already generating more than $250K a year and want to add the webinar to your engine and make it even better, well, sign up below for a call with me and the Scale for Impact team, and we'll be super happy to take you to the next level. This was Alessio, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe to this channel. I'm gonna give all the playbook and all the different lessons that I learned from generating $100 million in sales for all my clients, and I hope that this can help you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.